Are you a writer or some other type of creative who struggles to set your pricing and attract people who are willing to pay? Well, your worries are over because tonight our guest is going to help you set your prices with confidence and set your prices with confidence and attract the people who are eager to pay for your talent. Welcome to the Goddess Power Show. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I interview trailblazing women who help you live bigger, better, and bolder. I'm so honored to introduce to you Joy Bennett, Chief Strategist at Jumpstart Marketing. She specializes in making magic happen with writing and other marketing services. And this is a conversation that we've had that's really, really important to running an excellent business and feeling confident as an entrepreneur. So welcome, Joy. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So with writing and with creative services, it's really challenging sometimes to set a price. Can you explain why that's such a problem?
I think there's a couple reasons for that. I think first, as women entrepreneurs, we have a tendency to underestimate the value that we bring. And we default to wanting to be affordable. So rather than thinking about what I'm bringing to the table, I'm thinking, can you afford me, and how do I win this project or get the job by being the best price? And I always encourage people when I talk with them about getting started in copywriting or getting started as an entrepreneur, thinking about, well, that's essentially competing on price, and you don't want to do that because that's a losing battle. You will just end up having to drop your prices lower and lower, and you can't sustain that.
No.
You can't sustain yourself.
Right, right. Not to mention it makes you mad.
Exactly. Because when you're not being paid what you need to, you get resentful, and it's really hard to do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So I really encourage people to think that, well, there's two schools of thought. One is that you trade time for dollars, and one is that you are delivering value. And so you set your pricing based on the value that you're delivering.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried both ways. And where I've landed at the moment is kind of a hybrid of the two.
Uh-huh.
And we can talk about that further. But I think it's those two things. I think we kind of get stuck in this. I'm so desperate to get the work that I will
Yes.
set my prices too low.
Yes.
And we tend to undervalue our work to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how can we value our work more? I mean, it's really a process because when you start off, like you said, you're so eager to get that first job. One thing that I've done in the past for writing is consult the internet to see what is the going rate for a particular service, to write a press release or to write a speech. And I take it from there. And if anybody questions it, I have this documentation to back it up. But why do I have to do that?
I think it helps. I mean, I consider that to be benchmarking. So I want to see, in the same way that you would research salaries for a job that you're considering in your area, what are people charging for the kind of service that you're offering?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get any kind of regional data, that is also helpful. And it also tends to be gender neutral. And so it gives you a starting place.
Mm-hmm.
I have found the Editorial Freelancers Association has a really great resource that they update every year, where they break down pricing for editing, writing of all kinds, proofing even, which is a much more detailed kind of editing, ghost writing. It's a very helpful resource that gives for beginners and advanced. And what's interesting about their resource is that they tend to set pricing based on word count. So
Oh,
some things are, this many words. Sometimes it's a combination of like pages per hour. So it's really interesting just to see how people calculate things. That is
mm-hmm.
not necessarily dollars per hour and hours per however long it takes to do the project. There are other things to consider as you're working through this estimating process.
So, so do you recommend that people do sort of a self-study to see, well, how many words do I write in an hour? But if you have research that you have to weave in, I mean, creativity isn't like flipping a switch or hammering a nail. It comes from your heart
Totally.
and your soul. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you measure that? It's
Well,
really challenging.
that's why I think a lot of people have shifted to the value equation, and it's not an
Mm,
exact science. But let's think about this. So let's say you asked me to write copy for a sales page. So
mhm,
this is a page on your website that I'm writing copy to convince somebody to buy your service. So
mm,
potentially you could generate a lot of income from this
mm.
copy, this set
Yes.
of words. So, how much could you make from it? What if you earn money, if and you generate revenue from this, the value to you could be tens of thousands of dollars. So that
Wow.
completely changes the way you think about what I'm offering. Like if I can give you that compelling of copy that really works to deliver that for you,
Mhm.
then you're going to be willing to pay a lot because I'm
Wow.
going to deliver something that helps you build your business.
Wow. Okay,
So
so do you have
go
to
ahead.
say that to your client to say to help
Sometimes
them
I do.
understand? Okay.
Yeah. And I think, I've worked with nonprofits, I've worked with for profits, and a lot of times we need to have a conversation about what is this? What's the purpose of this? What is this going to do for you?
Mhm.
I had a conversation with someone recently who needs something that sounds kind of boring. It's a service manual, but this client understands, and we had this conversation that without it, his whole business is at risk because he only has a couple of people who are trained to service the product that he sells. Without this
Mm.
documented, if anything happens to them, his business is at great risk of going under because he doesn't have any way to provide the service that people might need. So he
Wow.
recognized like a lack of this is a huge threat to my company right now.
Wow.
So that helped when I calculated, and I kind of did a combination of here's how long I think it's going to take because time is a factor. I have to take into account the fact that if I say yes to this project that I am estimating will take me 300 hours, that is 300 hours that I will not be doing anything else. So that's called opportunity cost. And so it's really valuable to calculate that kind of thing so that I don't take on another big project and then suddenly
Right.
I've promised two massive
Oh,
things in the same amount of time.
oh
Um,
no.
but I calculated that out and I came to a number that I was like, this is a pretty high number, but it incorporates the research that you talked about,
Mhm.
interviewing the experts,
Mhm.
getting the graphics, the diagrams. We need detailed, diagrams and displays of how things work and fit together and potential problems. So there's a lot of work to be done. Then you need a really good index so that somebody can flip to the back and find exactly the thing they need. So indexing is like
Oh,
a whole step.
oh my gosh. Okay. Catherine and I
And
were in index hell once. It was like,
yes,
it was the middle of
it's a
the
real
night, and
thing.
we're like, when are we ever going to finish this?
Exactly.
But
So there's a lot of steps involved. And, I also spelled all of that out. And I said, this is what is included in these 300 hours. And that's why it's much. We kind of took a deep breath and it's like, well, we need to do it.
wow, excellent. That's awesome. It takes a minute to get to the courage level where you can
Mhm.
confidently declare the price and say, I don't care if you say no, I'm not doing it for anything less than this. You don't have to say it out
Right.
loud, but just know that in
But knowing it,
yourself.
and the other thing that I do is I will talk with people about how can we make this work. So typically I take payments in two installments, one up front, half of it typically, unless it's a really big project like this one, um, because I need to know you're serious. I have had too
Mm,
many people talk like they were going to start and then kind of walk away. And I'd already like cleared my schedule and was ready to go. And so I have learned that I need you to pay a deposit of some sort so that
mhm.
I know. And I tell people this reserves your spot on my calendar.
Yes.
But if it's a big project and if it's a high dollar amount, then I
Mhm.
will work with people on, phases and payment plans, because I understand cash flow too. Like that's a reality for all of us as well.
Yes.
But I'm
Right.
not discounting. I am helping to make it more manageable,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is a big difference.
I like that. I like that. So first, do some market research so that you're using a competitive rate, and then based on your own experience, you can scale up or down a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And then understand, do like a self-study of how much time it takes and what exactly is involved in this project. So you have the entire scope of service outlined and calculate how many hours, and
And I
then
have a
set the price.
resource for that,
Oh,
which is
great.
really helpful. There's a website, I believe they're called Writing Masters. I will get it. I'll get you the link and we can
Okay.
throw it into the description after this
Yes, thank you.
ends. But they have taken a whole huge number. There's like 3 pages of this document where they've taken all these different kinds of projects, from
Mhm.
user manuals to um, uh, scripts. Like there's 3 pages worth of things, and they'll say, here's the scope of a project. You need to think about these kinds of things, and it'll take approximately this amount of time per page, depending on if you're writing something brand new or if you're
Mhm.
updating. And I used it for this project I was just referring to, the service manual.
Mhm.
And it said, if this is a brand new piece, make sure you allow 10 hours to create the template for the document.
Oh,
Because we're talking about like a
wow.
100-page manual. So you have to have a template for each of the pages.
Uh-huh.
Like, I would not have known to allow 10 hours for that. So super valuable to get that kind of ballpark. And then I also track time. So I'm not
Uh-huh.
tracking it necessarily to bill people, but I'm tracking it so that I have a sense of how long it takes me. I might be really fast at, one kind of writing and a lot slower at another, or if it's really technical, it might take a lot longer. If there's a lot of interviewing you have to do, it's nice to know I spent, 20 hours interviewing when I did this project. So if I have another one that's similar, I need to build that in. So it's really
Oh,
helpful to keep those kinds of notes
uh-huh.
and records.
That's brilliant and so smart, because the other end of that, if you don't do that, let me just tell you, you are in the middle of the night, exhausted and so mad that you're making 5 cents an hour for your talent. Because when you
Exactly.
add up what you're getting paid, even if it looked like a good amount of money, and you add up the hours and energy, and again, creative energy is not like hammering a nail.
Hmm.
It's like taxing on your whole soul and psyche, and it's awful.
Absolutely.
So, Joy, I'm so happy that you're sharing this guidance. Um, how can people boost their confidence, though, to know their worth, not just in a dollar amount, but just their value in the marketplace?
I think that's where watching other people and how they hold themselves and how they have these conversations can be really helpful. Um, it's interesting. I listened to a training one time where someone said, when you go into a retail store, we don't sense any hesitation when we ask what something costs, right? It's just that's the price.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And I've learned and I've observed that the people who I speak with, they just want me to be matter of fact, like just tell me what this is going to entail so that
Uh-huh.
I know. And maybe I can't do it now, but it's not necessarily that people aren't necessarily out to devalue you, and if they are, then they're not your customer.
Mhm,
So you
mhm,
get to walk away too.
mhm.
Um, but I think we kind of build it up as this really scary thing to say, this is going to cost $3,000 or whatever the number happens to be.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be. And I think it's a practice. It takes practice and just going for it to even practice with somebody else and say, hey, I've got a call coming up. Can I go through my thing with you?
Oh, great idea.
I've done that a couple of times and it was so helpful because as much as I listen to other people, I can't hear myself really.
Right,
And so I've
right.
had people say, hey, you kind of like you undersold yourself there. Don't say, this, come out much more confident and just, skip that part. That part wasn't
Uh-huh.
necessary or,
Mhm.
um, Have you heard of the phrase kneecapping your sentences?
No, what's that?
That's when you say, well, I kind of think that it should be this. And you throw in these extra words to minimize the impact of what you really want to say. I hear myself do it now that I know what it is and I'm trying to stop. I
Hmm.
see it in writing and I'm really good at pulling it out when I can see it in text.
Hmm.
Like, no, just it's like extra words. Like, let's get to the message and just say, I
Hmm.
can do this. I can do a really good job for you and it will cost this much money.
Wow, I
And
love
then
it.
you just let it be quiet until they respond. You don't have to fill the air.
Hmm. Wow. So, Joy, language, tone of voice, authority,
Mm.
commanding, and not, like you said, diminishing the power or the impact with little things like, I hope that makes sense, or, letting your voice rise at the end of a sentence instead of just being flat and declaring something.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I just did it because I was
Yes.
asking, but I'm asking a question. But I see people do that, women especially, and also apologizing or speaking
Mm.
too softly, So how do we learn this? Do we have to have a business coach? Do we need to be in some kind of course?
I mean, those things have absolutely help. I think that at a certain point, every one of us needs to invest in our own personal development. And if you discover or you feel like, you're pitching, for example, like these conversations, these sales conversations are an area of weakness for you that you walk away from them just feeling like I could have done that better. Then it might be time to talk to somebody
Hmm.
and see if you can have someone, and it might only need to be a few sessions. Somebody who really knows what they're doing can really hone in on exactly what it is that you're saying, or I mean, even just your posture.
Hmm.
If you sit up straighter and or
Hmm.
stand, at a call or something like that. There's so many things that are little that a professional can spot right away.
Mm.
I do think that hiring a coach of some sort or enrolling in a course can be valuable. If that's not something you can afford,
Hmm.
find a buddy and just say, I need to practice this. Because even
Yes.
just practicing it so that you're saying the words and write out if you need to, like, okay, I'm going to say, I absolutely can do this for you,
Hmm.
and this is what it's going to cost. And
Mm.
practice saying it and like at a declarative, instead of, and this is going to, so it's going to cost. Like that sounds kind of, tentative.
Right.
And just the practicing makes it so much easier because in a lot of ways, it's like a muscle memory. If you do it over and over and over again, then it becomes more natural. So I think that could be helpful. Or as scary as it is,
Mm-hmm.
record yourself and then watch it back. That can be hard, but you'll see things. You're like, oh gosh, I didn't know I did that.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. I certainly think networking amongst other entrepreneurs is very, very helpful because it helps you sharpen your own blade in terms of your skills, which is really important. Catherine and I have been working with Lisa Peterson for years with the Atlas Collective, then Mindful Millionaire, and now I Prosper. And just being amongst other entrepreneurs, especially women, we learn so very, very much because people share their wisdom, their mistakes, their knowledge, their experience, and it's really awesome. So there's also so many resources online that are free, YouTube videos and websites. And so all the information is there. We just have to know. And unfortunately, being in that mad space in the middle of the night when you're exhausted and underpaid is a really good motivator.
It is. Might be a little late for that particular scenario, but you can absolutely find a ways to handle it better for the next one.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
This sounds like this really happened,
Oh, a long time ago, when I was
but
first started ghostwriting, I
yeah,
just didn't know, and I
yeah.
just didn't know, and I didn't know how much time it would take me to actually do the writing, because it looked like a good amount of money, but the reality, and then when people want revisions, can you talk about, Joy,
Oh.
setting boundaries around revisions, please?
So that's another really important piece of going into business, into this kind of service business. I have found it really helpful to create a simple contract, and everything can be the same for every client except for the specific part that describes the services and the specific part that describes the fee. So you can create it or like work with an attorney. It wouldn't cost very much to have someone review it and say, here's what I think should be in there just to protect yourself. But in the description, it's really important to define exactly what you're doing. And I have learned, it sounds like you have too, to spell out how many rounds of revisions and what it will cost for extra. I learned that the hard way. And another conversation that you'll need to get comfortable having is when inevitably somebody says, oh, can you add this section? Or can we do this different topic as well? Or I had a project that we ended up, I believe the last number of the revision was 52.
What?
We had 52 revisions because there were 20 people weighing in on this. I got a Word document back every few days. The entire thing. If you've ever seen the track changes.
Oh, I hate those. I
Every
freaking hate
single
those.
word. Yes, the whole thing. It was multiple colors and every word was highlighted by the track changes. So 20 people had weighed in and put in their stuff. And I was just like, oh my goodness.
What did you do?
I took a deep breath. And I think there are ways to simplify the view. And I think I went to like simple markup, like, okay, I just need to see what does it look like now?
Okay.
And then kind of weeded through, but yeah, I don't even remember. I think I may have blotted that out of my memory.
Yeah, I would.
Crazy.
That's
I did take a screenshot and it was like, I cannot believe that what I'm seeing here. That experience taught me that I give people 2 rounds of revisions included in my estimate. And then I say, additional rounds we will charge, X number of dollars per hour for additional rounds of revision. So I'm not saying I won't do it because sometimes you just need more rounds of revisions, but I'm also going to charge for the time.
yes.
And I've had people ask like, wow, like only 2 rounds and I think they're thinking, what if I'm playing with this paragraph and we have back and forth? Like, is each one of those exchanges a revision? I could be a stickler, but I explained my story. And I said, what I'm really trying to avoid is that kind of situation where I am getting multiple sets of input at all different times that I have to sort through. And then people disagreeing with each other. So what I ask is that you gather it all and then you send me one set. And then I work through that and then I send it back.
Right.
We do that another time. And then we should be close to final at that point.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. So this
then,
uh-huh.
Well, I was just going to say that the thing you have to be able to say when somebody asks for something that's outside of what you agreed on is, I would be happy to do that for you. I will send you an estimate for what that will cost because that's outside of the original scope.
Oh, I like
that's another thing I practice.
Uh-huh.
Okay, how am I going to say this? I want to be matter of fact. This is not something I'm going to argue with you about. And this is extra. Like, I didn't include this when we initially set exactly what the services were and what the price was. So I have to, it makes sense, that it's going to cost more. And so sometimes people will be like, oh, well, that's okay. We don't need to do that. And it kind of forces them to make some decisions about priorities. And sometimes they're like, okay, just tell me what it's going to cost.
See, that's awesome. That is awesome. I love it. That is so cool. Wow. So,
it has
Joy,
made life so much better.
I can tell by your posture and the way you say it. It's awesome. Why do you think women attach so much emotion to money, pricing, services, like fear of making someone mad?
Gosh, that's a hard question. Like that's
Isn't
going
it?
deep. I think I think that there's something in us, and I don't know if it's cultural, if it's biological, if it's all those things mixed together, but we are very oriented to please people and to serve people. Like that's, I want my clients to be happy. I want them to get a great result. And if I see or hear or they articulate a need, like my initial response is always to like, okay, how can I help? What can
Uh-huh.
I do?
Uh-huh.
And it's that's a fine thing, but I think the part that where we get ourselves into trouble and where we can, run ourselves into the ground and end up with in burnout is when we don't add that other piece. Like I would be happy to do that for you, and it's going to cost because that's additional time. That's
Right.
additional time or a different project, or this is
Mhm.
a different strategy.
Mhm.
I had that happen one time where I'd scoped everything out. This was the way we were going to go to build a business. We were maybe 2 weeks in, and then all of a sudden it was like, actually, we're going to go do this. And I didn't realize what an impact that would have on my time because I had to learn an entirely new strategy to then implement it.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I ended up paying to do that job instead of being paid to do that job. I won't make that mistake again. And I had the conversation that was like, I cannot keep doing this. I can't afford to.
Right, see? It's real, it's real. So,
Yeah.
Joy, let's end on a happy note. What does it
Okay.
feel like when you're setting your prices, you feel like you're getting paid for your value, your worth, and you're prospering and providing powerful services for happy clients?
Oh, it feels amazing because I know I have skills in my area of expertise. I can do this and I do a really great job and I'm fast.
Uh-huh.
So that means that I can ask more and I get paid for that. And
Mhm.
it just feels really good. So I
Mhm.
think that it's worth pushing through that discomfort. It's
Mhm.
worth practicing that uncomfortable conversation over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, and if you've got somebody you can call right before that chat that you have to have with your customer or something, that's where, having a tribe around you is so helpful. Um, I think it's empowering to to have that objective evidence, I think, that I am providing this service and I am being paid this amount. Like that's an objective, like this is valuable.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
am worth being paid.
Yes.
You can't argue with that. Cold hard cash, right? But I will also say, you mentioned like happy clients. That's really the best. Like when they get something and they're just like, this is amazing. This is
Yeah.
better than we ever thought. We had no
Yes.
idea it could be like this. Like
Yeah.
that's the best.
Yay. Oh, one more happy note, Joy. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So you have this package where you just decided to let your creativity just totally be unleashed and tap into the magic and write a package that reflected that. Can you talk about that, please? I love it.
I don't know what exactly happened that day, but I had a client who I'd worked with on a website copy project who reached out. And this was one of those situations where I could have just said, sure. But I got an email that said, hey, the subject line was hilarious. It was something like, you have to help me because this thing I just wrote is trash. I'm laughing already, before I even opened it. And the request was like, I'm writing this letter to introduce myself to potential new clients. So this is important, very valuable piece of words, set of words. This could lead to really big business. And this is first impression stuff. So it's important. And the request was like, can you look at this and like make it better somehow? I know it's terrible.
Uh,
And then like 5 minutes later, another email comes in that's like, P.S. Never mind. You just need to start over because the whole thing is terrible. And
Okay.
I think that um, a younger version of myself would have just said, sure, and looked at it and sent something. Instead, I was laughing and it was fun. And we always have had this kind of lighthearted relationship. And so I knew that I could do this, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna work. I think he may have mentioned something about work your magic or something. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna put together Joy's magic packages. And
Oh,
I
I
was,
love
and I, and so then I came up with names for them. Like a sprinkle of pixie dust was like, I'll just look over this one thing for $150, and it'll be beautiful. But if you have more of this, or other things that you might want some of Joy's magic writing, there's these other ones. So like the white glove, illusionist, I think might have been the highest amount, and then I had like pulling the ROI out of the hat was one, and like a magic wand. So I can't remember all of them, but it was really fun. And I set those up as kind of this many words for this much, because I have a sense, a letter is typically 300 to 500 words, and an article is like 500 to 800 words. So I was kind of thinking through, this would give you this about this many pieces. And I sent it, and I was like, I can do this. If it's just this one thing, I just put this together just for you, like this kind of custom magic package. And he was like, awesome. Here you go. I definitely need the magic pixie dust for now, and I'll be back for more.
Oh my goodness. See what I loved
fun.
about that when you did that, Joy, was that you weren't worried about, oh, I should be this way in business, or I can't really let my fun side out because it won't sound professional or whatever. But it resonated. It worked. I just
did.
love that so much. I was really inspired. It actually shifted the way I sent an email recently, and it was the funnest email. Yes. So thank you. You inspired me profoundly.
Oh, good. That's really great.
Yeah,
It
thank you.
was really fun. And I also was proud of myself because, like I said, it would have been really easy to just do it and not charge. And that would have been devaluing what I had to offer, especially on something that is that important.
Right. See, and look what evolved from it. How cool is
Yeah.
that?
And I will say, as a side note, when I read it, I knew immediately what was wrong, and I knew exactly how to fix it. So it's, while hammering a nail doesn't necessarily take time, it's kind of the story of the plumber who's got 25 years of experience and knows exactly which screw to tighten to fix the problem, and it only takes 2 seconds, but he spent a lifetime to get there. This was the same thing. I looked at the copy and was like, I know exactly what to do to fix this.
Right. And then
it's because I have all the experience.
Yes. So the plumber story, the person who called the plumber said, "You're going to charge me $200 for that?"
Yeah.
He said, "No, I'm charging you $200 because I knew where to turn the screw."
Exactly the right thing to do. Yes.
That's the best.
It is. That's a great story.
Wow, Joy. Is there anything else you'd like to share with writers and creative entrepreneurs on setting prices and knowing their value?
It is a challenge for all of us. So you're in good company, and don't hesitate to reach out. I have found, especially in creative services like this, that people are very generous. And so, if anyone ever reached out and was like, "Hey, would you mind sharing me a little bit about how you price things?" I would be happy to do that.
Oh, that's nice.
Especially for women, and especially for people just starting out. I'm the first one to say, you need to charge more. Like, I've said that to people that I've hired, and like, I will pay you more. You need to charge more.
Wow.
I think that's a thing we can do for each other too. It's like, help each other to own that value.
Yes, that's powerful. Where can people reach you?
I am at jumpstartmarketing.com. And then I am Jumpstart MKTG, so marketing like it's without the vowels, on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Joy, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I wish you the absolute best. This was so informative.
And hopefully everyone's feeling encouraged and inspired to have some of those hard questions, or have those hard conversations.
Yes. I think you offered some really solid guidance. So thank you. And remember those resources I'll put in the description box.
Perfect. I'll send those over. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Wish you the best.
You too.
And thank you for joining us here on the Goddess Power Show, where I help you boss up and be the goddess that you're meant to be in mind, body, spirit, and business when I interview trailblazing women like Joy Bennett. So thank you so much, Joy, for joining us. And please, all of you, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment or a question if you have one. Check out everything in the description box. And while you're at it, please follow me on Twitter at Elizabeth Atkins. So remember, boss up, goddess. You have the power. I'll see you next time.